a selfie in the wrong place, a taxi driver who is too friendly, a family home with the wrong sign, or just an untimely joke. In Cuba, any of these details can become a problem, and so what starts as a vacation trip ends with your passport being held. Or worse, with you being detained. Because there, a simple mistake can cost you your trip, or worse. That's why today on Bello Mundo, you'll find out what never to do in Cuba, so you don't trade your mojito for a police report. Mistake number 1. Boarding without checking the latest rules. The most important tip here is, never underestimate Cuban bureaucracy. Some people buy a ticket, book a hotel, and think the rest will be sorted out at the airport. Here, that bet usually goes wrong. In the past, to enter the country, all you had to do was present a little piece of paper that many people called a tourist card. It was a pink or green leaflet that you bought separately from your ticket and handed in on arrival. But that's in the past. In recent years, Cuba has been digitizing the process and increasingly requiring that everything be done online, in advance. You can no longer assume that everything will be taken care of at the airport counter. So don't trust old blogs or outdated YouTube videos. Cuba has changed, and unsuspecting tourists have lost trips for much less. Mistake number 2. Traveling without insurance and without a vaccination card. This is the kind of mistake that doesn't seem like a mistake until the day you need it. Many people travel to Cuba with the idea that if something goes wrong, they can just go to a hospital. After all, the country's healthcare system is famous worldwide. But there's one detail that changes everything. It is free, but only for Cubans. If tourists get sick and don't have insurance, they may end up paying a lot or, even worse, being barred from entering the country. There are inspectors who ask for proof of insurance right there at the airport. And if you don't have it, they force you to take out local coverage from the state insurance company. There's no way around it. Another point that many people forget is the yellow fever vaccine. Without the international certificate in hand, it's no use saying you've had it. Everything has to be stamped and dated, and the vaccine must have been administered at least 10 days before departure. Mistake number 3. Traveling with a physical or virtual card. This one is the biggest headache. In many countries, it's common to travel with just your card in your pocket, and that's it. But in Cuba, that doesn't work. Cards issued by American banks simply don't work, and even those from other countries keep failing without explanation. The economy still revolves around cash. There are ATMs, but they are often empty, and the electronic payment system is fragile. The best strategy is to take more money than you think you will spend, and keep it safe, because even in places that accept cards, you still depend on the internet. And that brings us to the next mistake. Mistake number 4. Relying on the internet. The internet in Cuba is unstable, slow, and often expensive. Access is usually only available in specific public areas, such as squares and hotels, and even then, only with a prepaid card. No free Wi-Fi in restaurants or 4G working in taxis. So download the apps before you embark. Don't count on remote work or updated social media. And there's more. In times of political tension, the signal can be cut off at any moment. So don't travel thinking that your cell phone will solve everything. Have offline versions of documents, routes, and reservations. Because when the signal disappears, those who are prepared don't despair. Mistake number 5. Taking dollars. In fact, this is not a prohibition, but a warning so you don't waste money. Generally, the US dollar is always the best currency to take on a trip. But in Cuba, it becomes a trap. Even with the official exchange rate, the Cuban government applies a 10% tax only on money coming from the United States. This is a reflection of the economic blockade, and it doesn't happen with other currencies, such as the euro, the pound, or the Canadian dollar. In practice, exchanging dollars in Cuba means accepting a loss on the conversion. And if this can be avoided before leaving home, why take the risk? Mistake number 6, talking about politics. Cuba is not a country like any other. Here, there is a single party, strict social control, and little room for improvisation when it comes to politics. And this detail completely changes the way you behave in public. It's not about explicit censorship, it's about context. An opinion that seems harmless in a bar in Brazil or a square in Italy can become embarrassing here. Or worse, it can put someone else at risk, because tourists get on a plane and leave. But the Cuban who heard or participated in the conversation remains there. And in an environment where everything can be misinterpreted, even an informal conversation can cause headaches for those who stay. So forget about arguing or testing the limits. When in doubt, speak less and listen more. After all, you have 2 ears and only 1 mouth. Mistake number 7, pointing your camera in the wrong place. It's not just what you say, it's also what you show. In Cuba, filming or photographing military areas, police, government buildings, or people in uniform can become a police matter, literally. The authorities will not accept the excuse of an unsuspecting tourist. If the image appears sensitive, they may confiscate your equipment, ask for explanations, or even arrest you. And yes, it has happened to people who just wanted an innocent record of their trip. The best advice here is simple. If in doubt, put the camera down. And ask first. This applies to streets, squares, and any space where the boundary between public and private is unclear. And the rule doesn't just apply to the military. Even among civilians, there is a code of respect. Cubans like to be asked before appearing in photos. This is especially true in smaller communities, with children, street performers, or people in traditional clothing. Think about it. You wouldn't like it if a stranger came out of nowhere and took a bunch of photos of you without saying anything. A "can I take a photo?" makes all the difference. And don't forget the tip if you're filming street performers. You are recording someone's work. So yes, take your camera, record your trip, make your memories, but be polite. Mistake number 8, traveling with an empty suitcase. Packing light, thinking you'll buy everything at your destination, may work in other countries. But in Cuba, this strategy is a trap. The country faces a severe shortage of medicines. There are pharmacies, but it's common to find the shelves practically empty. Sometimes you can't even find dipyrone. Many people there depend on donations or ask their neighbors for help to get a simple fever medicine. So take everything you can. Your regular medications, of course, but also antipyretics, anti-inflammatories, anti-allergics, muscle relaxants, something for headaches, flu, fever, diarrhea, and constipation. You can go overboard because in Cuba, you can't count on luck. And it's not just medicine you need to be prepared with. Personal hygiene also comes into play. Soap, sanitary pads, sunscreen, toilet paper, deodorant. These are items that are often in short supply, or when they do appear, are absurdly priced. Even snacks have become a luxury item. Don't expect to find cookies, chocolate, cereal bars, or any common snacks. Cuba has very limited trade, affected for decades by economic blockades. Gift shops, convenience stores, or pharmacies with variety, as we know them, are rare there. Therefore, it's better to be safe than sorry. Mistake number 9, bringing a drone. If you paid attention to what we said about cameras, you already understand that filming in Cuba requires caution. But with drones, it's a different story. It's not just a matter of being cautious. It's actually prohibited. Cuba does not allow drones to enter the country. Customs will confiscate it on the spot, and there's no point in arguing. Even those who work in audiovisual production or have a professional license face heavy bureaucracy that rarely results in authorization. The official justification is security. The Cuban government treats airspace very strictly, mainly because of concerns about espionage, surveillance, and privacy. And in a country where control is strict, trying to circumvent this rule can get you into serious trouble. So don't try it. Leave your drone at home. Enjoy Cuba with your feet on the ground. You can capture a lot of amazing things with a good camera or your cell phone. You'll save yourself a headache and avoid the risk of losing equipment at customs. Mistake number 10. Carrying items for other people. This mistake seems innocent, but it can be costly. In Cuba, when you enter the country with luggage, the entire contents of your suitcase are searched. And if there is anything that the authorities consider irregular, it's your problem. It's not just a matter of law. It's that Cuba treats all of this with extreme rigor. Illegal substances and contraband are viewed with minimal tolerance. Possession or use of drugs is prohibited and can lead to jail time. Having even small amounts of substances such as cannabis can become a problem, and simple possession can result in imprisonment for up to 2 years. For larger quantities, sentences increase significantly and can reach decades in prison, depending on the case. The biggest risk of carrying other people's things is precisely that. It may seem like a small favor to carry a small package or an item that you are not even sure what it contains. However, if that item requires special declaration or control, or if it is interpreted as something illegal, you will be held responsible for it, not the person who asked for the favor. Therefore, packing your suitcase with only your own belongings is not an exaggeration. Do not agree to carry packages, bags, electronics, or any item that is not clearly yours. Even a seemingly harmless object can change categories when it goes through an X-ray or is interpreted by a more strict authority. Mistake number 11. Exchanging money at the wrong exchange rate. Exchanging money in Cuba is not simply a matter of finding the best rate. It is a matter of security. The official exchange rate exists, but it pays little. The parallel exchange rate pays more, but it is full of pitfalls. The streets are full of people offering help who seem friendly, polite, and even convincing, but who can put you at risk. There are counterfeit bills, there are manipulated calculations, there are exchanges made in a hurry so you don't realize you've lost money. Not to mention the legal aspect. Exchanging currency outside of authorized locations can result in fines or headaches with the police. So treat your money the same way you treat your passport. No improvisation, no small talk, and no deals on the street. In Cuba, the most advantageous exchange is not always the safest, and cheap deals have a dangerous habit of turning out to be expensive. Mistake number 12. Getting into an unlicensed taxi. Cuba's old cars attract everyone's attention. They are beautiful, photogenic, and seem like part of the experience. But not every car is a legal taxi, and not every driver who smiles at you is authorized to transport tourists. Havana has cases of scammers posing as taxi drivers. The ride starts cheap, ends expensive, or ends nowhere. And sometimes it gets much worse. There have been situations where the car was stopped in the middle of the road. The police discovered that the driver did not have a license, and he was arrested on the spot. The tourists who were in the car had to give statements and were only released after paying a fine. This happens because many people get in the car first and ask the price later. In Cuba, this is a sure recipe for trouble. The ideal thing to do is to agree on the price beforehand, confirm that the vehicle is registered, and, whenever possible, ask your host for a recommendation. The important thing to remember is that a ride that is too cheap, an insistent driver, or a car without identification are warning signs. Ignoring this can turn a quick trip into a whole day wasted. Mistake number 13, staying in a private home without a license. Private homes are one of the best ways to experience the real Cuba. They are welcoming, cheaper, and much more authentic than many hotels. However, there is one rule that cannot be ignored. Not every home can receive foreigners. Authorized homes display a blue symbol on the door. This small detail is what separates regular accommodation from a serious problem. The orange symbol indicates that the space can only accommodate Cubans, and homes without any identification cannot accommodate anyone. If you stay in the wrong place, you will be the one to pay the bill. Fines exist and are high. In addition, the owner can also get into trouble. Therefore, it is always good to check beforehand. Accommodation in Cuba works well, but it needs to be within the rules. Mistake number 14, drinking water where you shouldn't. We have mentioned this before, but it is worth reinforcing. Cuba has been in a complicated situation for a long time, and this ends up affecting everyday basics. Simple things like finding a soap you like, sunscreen, a packet of cookies, or even medicine for a stomachache can become a small mission. And when this is the case, trusting tap water is not a good idea. The water supply network does not have the same treatment standards that many people are used to, and the risk of getting sick is real. This also applies to ice made without care and drinks prepared in places where you do not know how the water is stored. Therefore, the rule is simple: bottled water for everything, including brushing your teeth. Avoid ice if you don't know where it comes from, and travel with your own medicine kit, because relying on pharmacies there can turn into a soap opera. A small detail like this can save your entire trip. It's better to avoid the problem while it's still in your glass and not in your stomach. Mistake number 15. Never walk around without your passport. To conclude this tour of what you shouldn't do in Cuba, here's a rule that seems simple, but which trips up many tourists. Don't walk around without your ID, so never, ever walk around without your passport. In Cuba, you need it for everything. Exchanging money, buying drinks, purchasing internet cards, and even during routine checks in the most touristy areas. The police frequently ask for identification, and this is nothing unusual. It's just how the country works. The problem arises when you don't have any documents to present. This slows you down, creates embarrassment, and sometimes puts you in situations that could be avoided with a simple gesture. The best way to deal with this is simple. Keep your passport at your hotel or lodging, and always carry a copy with your tourist card. It can be a printout or digital, it doesn't matter. The important thing is to have some form of proof of who you are on hand in case someone asks for it. Never underestimate this rule. Documents in Cuba are not a minor detail. They are what separates a peaceful trip from a problem you didn't need to have. Cuba can be one of the most memorable trips of your life, precisely because it brings you face to face with a country full of history, beauty, contradictions, and a daily life that is unlike almost anywhere else. But this same uniqueness comes at a price for those who don't pay attention. If you avoid these mistakes, you'll arrive lighter, get around better, spend more safely, record your trip without headaches, and above all, not put anyone at risk because of a heated conversation or tourist behavior that thinks rules are suggestions. And now, we want to hear from you. Would you have the courage to visit Cuba in the most authentic way, staying in a private home, walking around and experiencing the real rhythm of the place? Or would you be part of the team that prefers a package deal with a fully planned itinerary? If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and send this content to someone who has Cuba on their list. Because a trip can be incredible, but it can also go wrong because of a silly detail.